So after getting banned, Hassan decided to release his own statement. He did a separate video. I think that he's got like 5 cameras at his desk. So he used one of them to record this video. This is called "I Got Suspended Again." And this is kind of neat. Like whenever he gets banned, he makes this video, which like I don't like Hassan, but this is a good idea, and this is something that like content creators should do. Where it's like you get banned on one platform, then you should, make a video, make a little statement, kind of telling your side of the story, and then posting it. Like that's what I would do if I was in the same situation. So anyways, let's see what he has to say. I wonder if he actually has a clip of the clip that got banned, the part of the stream that got him banned, because I'm really interested to hear what he had to say. I think that he probably records everything on his end as well, so he's got to have the files of what he was saying, and I wonder if he included the clip for context.
Hello. If you're watching this, that means I just got banned. As in, I got a temporary 24-hour suspension. And we're back together on this deep, up-close, and personal YouTube video. Welcome back to the Hasanabi channel on YouTube. Now, some of you are probably wondering, considering that there's a lot of back and forth going on online about why I got banned once again. Well, you might have actually heard the truth. I got banned specifically because I covered the motives of the Israeli embassy staff shooter, which apparently, according to Twitch terms of service, dictates a suspension, even if I critically
literally, yes, it does.
The manifesto, which is precisely what I did.
Oh, shoot. That's why my GPU was freaking out and my encoding was overloading. It always chokes whenever I try to load a video that has 60 frames per second. So let me make sure that nothing else is trying to do 60 frames per second. Okay, there we go. This should fix most of my issues. There we go.
The reason why I read this is specifically so that you understand that like there is a shit ton of people that are like, no, this is the shooter's actions were directly about finding some Jewish victim to kill. Okay, it's deliberate. It's clear what his reasoning is. You don't have to agree with what he did, and I'm not urging you to. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. But it is.
But is he condemning it though? Right, like. I think it's completely different to be like, oh, well, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't support this. I wouldn't condone this, versus being like, this is bad, this is wrong, and you shouldn't do it. And if I had to make a bet here, I would say that Hassan Piker only gave soft disavowals, saying that, this isn't great. I wouldn't do this, but honestly, coming from him, I think that's an improvement.
You too, okay? I'm not saying that at all, but it is deliberate. Ask yourself why the media is not saying that the shooter did this because they were distraught with the violence that they had seen unfolded in Gaza.
What else are you supposed to think when he literally is arrested saying free Palestine, free Gaza, or whatever? Right? Like, the news has been reporting that. To me, it makes no sense to be like, oh, the news isn't saying what the motive was. Bro literally shot, killed, and assassinated 2 employees at the Israeli embassy while saying free Gaza. I wonder what his motive could have been. Like, come on, bro, stop it. I'm so annoyed. But because like one of the things that the left loves to do is they love to play dumb and be like, oh, what's a woke person? I don't know what woke means. Woke is so dumb. That word means nothing. It's ephemeral. And like similarly here, he's like, oh, the news media isn't saying what the motive was. Like, no, dude. Like, remove your hands from your eyes. Have a more holistic view of what the media is reporting, what the news is reporting. Because like, I have not seen a single mainstream news segment about this whole situation that admitted the fact that he was saying free Gaza, free Palestine, right? Like the media was not hiding that fact. Generally speaking, if you watch the news, like NBC Nightly News, they're not going to read pages from the manifesto, but they will maybe show statements that the person gave at the time.
And the reason why I had critically examined the manifesto of the Israeli embassy staff shooter was because there was a lot of misinformation taking place, as is the case usually online whenever there's a breaking news story. This is what I do. A big part of what I do is holding people's hands through the news media process by allowing them to think critically and helping them understand literacy. This is precisely why I was covering the manifesto that my friend Ken Klippenstein was able to find and release. Another friend of mine, Eric Toller of the New York Times Visual Investigation Unit, had also uncovered the manifesto of the shooter around the same exact time, and he had also released it on his Twitter page. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because oftentimes when instances like this happens, the media will take bits and pieces of a manifesto to create a framework around the motive, but in this circumstance, the media actually was quite quiet about the manifesto in and of itself. And I think that's newsworthy, but that's not the story here. The story is that I got banned for it. I got temporarily suspended because this is a part of the Twitch terms of service. You are not allowed, as it dictates right here in front of me, to even show a violent extremist manifesto on stream while denouncing it.
And by the way, I think I've said this before, but I agree that this is a bad rule. I think that this rule is something that should be overturned. I do not support this rule. I think it should be banned for other reasons, but not for this.
This, I think, is not good for news and press freedom. And I said on Twitter, I'll take the suspension, but I hope Twitch changes its policy in the future. And I do believe they might. Having said...
Also, I think it's very funny. I don't know when I last saw Hassan speak this calmly and like rationally. Like usually the man is like mauling and shouting and raging at his chat or people he doesn't like with like a very like... with his vocal cords at a relatively high octave, but this is not what he's doing here. I'm kind of surprised.
Said that, how do we get here? Especially considering that I had covered manifestos of the Cybertruck explosion. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2008 Black Mustang V6 for verification. The Luigi Mangione manifesto. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. The Wisconsin...
Good editing on this video, by the way. I don't know who the editor is, but good editing on the video.
School shooter manifesto. Some people think it's pure nothing, but because the hate they make, it ends up killing them without knowing it, which go right ahead. I don't mind, but kind of do at the same time. The literacy rates are abysmal in this country. The manifesto of Ryan Ruth. Dear world, this was an assassination.
Hey, it's Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin.
Abysmal in this country. The manifesto of Ryan Ruth. Dear world, this was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I'm so sorry I failed you. Wait, how did he know? And also the Israeli diplomat shooters manifesto. The atrocities committed by Israelis against Palestine defy description and defy quantification. Why was this different? Why was this a big deal? I'm covering all of these.
Is he going to pretend that it's because this was a terrorist attack against Israel and that's the reason why he got banned? Or is he going to talk about the greater discussion around him supporting extremism and terrorism?
Different manifestos on stream, and I've never been banned for it. Well, I believe the reason why this was actually a little bit different is because there was a lot of outside pressure in the immediate aftermath.
There it is. Okay, good. I'm glad he's being a little bit honest in this video. I was wondering if he was going to address the elephant in the room.
Of this shooting, the ADL, Apartheid Defamation League's very own Jonathan
in the aftermath of the shooting, I thought I was going to say because of like the whole Ethan Klein thing, him being exposed for extremism, like all that stuff.
The immediate aftermath of this shooting, the ADL.
Oh, okay. I take back my words of praise.
Defamation League's very own Jonathan Greenblatt went on CNN only hours after the shooting had taken place to make incredibly slanderous statements about me, stating that I was responsible for this. My rhetoric was responsible for this. Let's take a look.
All of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer, Hassan Piker, who regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state.
This is slander through and through.
Oh my goodness. Slander? Seriously? Let's go back and hear what he had to say. because that accurately describes Hassan Piker.
My rhetoric was responsible for this. Let's take a look.
All of us need to call it out. I'm thinking about the New York Times doing a gauzy profile a few weeks ago of this gamer Hassan Piker who.
Well, okay, I will say, we got to be honest. All right, if we're seeing lies emitted, the mainstream media from the left or the right, attacking the left or the right, we must call it out. We see lies, falsehood, slander, misinformation, propaganda. We must call it out. So I do have an obligation to say that Hassan Piker is absolutely right here. This guy from the ADL absolutely lied about Hassan Piker, absolutely slandered him. He's not a gamer. He barely games. This is an egregious case of misinformation from CNN, and they need to really press their guests to be more accurate and to be more truthful when they're giving statements. I'm sure the rest of what he said is actually true. I'm poking fun, but yeah, to call him a gamer is kind of funny. I think it's probably best at the game Solitaire, but let's continue.
Regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people in the Jewish state.
This is slander through and through. I do not apply.
Jewish people, I don't know, but the Jewish state, absolutely.
Awful genocidal language towards Jewish people. I don't believe that even a genocide that the Israeli government is doing justifies a genocide to the Israeli government or the Israeli people. I am not the one who...
Oh! So is he denouncing the whole from the river to the sea, Palestine would be free? Because you got to remember, for the river to the sea, Palestine would be free necessitates a genocide of the Jews in Israel. I mean, case closed. Because that means just like all of the land in the Palestinian region belongs to the Arabs and Palestinians there, and the Jews would be expelled. That's the goal, and that's what that chant means. So is he disavowing that movement now? Or maybe he's going to be softening his position because of the pressure that he's being put under, especially having been banned from Twitch? Maybe that's it.
Who is defending a genocidal state here. Jonathan Greenblatt is. Having said that, this slander continued with no pushback from the CNN anchor, which I think is rather strange.
Yeah, like how come the anchor wasn't like, what are you talking about? Hassan Piker isn't the gamer.
Extremists should not be empowered. People who spout prejudice should not be platformed. This is a moment when we need to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we've got to stop this because the consequences are deadly.
I sort of disagree because I think that extremists should be able to have a platform because once you start like policing speech, then you start descending into fascism and authoritarianism. The problem is that this is a platform that is doing censorship. Like Twitch censors people, right? Like I think Destiny is still banned from Twitch, and it's still not clear exactly what it is that he even did. But like if you are in a position where you can do censorship or you choose to do censorship, then yes, I'm going to say you need to be even, you need to be equal, and you need to be fair, which they're not doing to Hassan Piker. They're being extremely lenient. If you're trying to be a Wild West platform, like Kick, for example, absolutely keep going. Like let Kanye do all his streams or whatever. YouTube is a lot more lenient too. You know, keep on allowing folks to, you know, go live while having left-wing or right-wing views. Like you can let Steven Crowder stream on YouTube, and they also let the Young Turk stream on YouTube, as well as Tim Pool. So I don't have a view that every single platform needs to allow every single person to speak, but I do want people to be neutral. And I think that there should be more free speech and open places for folks who are a little bit more extreme to go to where they can still speak their mind while not offending the general public.
Here, Jonathan Greenblatt was making an implication that my rhetoric was responsible for this Israeli embassy staffer shooter going out and finding Israeli embassy staffers and shooting them.
I mean, to be fair, we don't know if the shooter actually watches Hassan Piker. But I mean, it's more accurate to say like people like Hassan Piker. It doesn't have to be him necessarily, but people like him who sort of have been doing their best to legitimize radical pro-intifada language and push that into the mainstream and make it seem like something that's acceptable when really it's not.
This is ridiculous. There is no connection between me and the shooter. The shooter actually followed a bunch of people. I was not one of them on Twitter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was not following me. What the do you mean? He was.
Wait, who was? I am not familiar with any of those people. I mean, it's kind of pixelated, but I'm not familiar with any of those
However,
folks.
following a bunch of, he was following Joe Weisenthal, you know what I mean? To Jonathan Greenblatt's statement, I replied with, Israel is an apartheid state doing a live stream genocide. I think it's wrong and dangerous to conflate these.
Oh my goodness. I'm not even going to unpack all that. Okay.
Actions with Jews and Judaism. The Apartheid Defense League doesn't, because they think they can improve Israel's standing by silencing its critics. It, however, will not change the truth. And this is important to note, because that's not where the story ends. During my coverage, there were a lot of people that stated that perhaps the embassy shooter was maybe a false flag operation. I do not believe that. Part of the reason why I covered the manifesto was precisely for this reason, to make sure that we understood the motives and we understood exactly.
Well, it's because it's good content, let's be honest.
What the shooter was.
Hey, and the same thing with Osama bin Laden. You know, I'm not going to hate the player. Well, I know some people wouldn't blame me if I hated this player, but you understand the saying. Let's continue.
To do, but that wasn't enough. There were the likes of E.L. Jacoby, a Hasbro guy on Twitter who lies at the behest of the state.
I don't know what Hasbro is. It sounds like I don't know. Is that like an anti-Semitic dog whistle? Let me go to Urban Dictionary to see what that is. Hasbro, when a Jew/Zionist is winning an argument. Okay.
Israel quite frequently, saying, breaking, Hassan Piker, hailed by the New York Times as the future of progressivism, tells his audience that the DC attack might have been a false flag, then immediately says the guy was genuine with his actions. This is glorification of terrorism. Now,
to be fair, I don't know if he glorified this specific instance. Saying that he was genuine in his actions is like not a sign of endorsement or support. I think Adolf Hitler was genuine in his actions. I don't support him though.
These two statements here are at odds with one another. But what's actually even crazier is that this is a 37-second video that is attached to this statement. Let's take a look.
But wasn't the stream taken down? Look, I don't think you can blame him for taking a clip from a stream that has been taken down because of censorship, you know?
Look at that 37-second video. But like I'm not Mr. False Flag at all, but like every single thing that he did in the aftermath of the shooting is so fucking crazy that it's like you could not have fucking designed a incident like this. You could not have designed a better false flag incident like this. I'm not saying it is a false flag incident at all. I'm not saying that. I think this is just a one dude who is genuine in his actions and maybe, you know, a little bit brain broken. Okay. Most people,
I mean, he's literally doing the whole like conspiracy theory thing and speculating, which is absolutely fine to do. I do that all the time. I make it clear to be like, this is my conspiracy theory. I'm saying this is possible. I'm not saying that this is true, but you know, nothing wrong with being like, oh, yo, imagine if this was if this is a false flag, this is how I would make it. Like, you know, it's a fair thing to say, I think, especially if you're doing long form coverage and it's not the first thing on your mind when you're looking at the news story at hand.
That retweeted this didn't even actually watch the video to see whether or not it actually matched up with what this person was saying. Now, why am I talking about this random account? It only got 6,000.
Wait a second. Did he upload the clip of him reacting to the manifesto? I don't know if he did. I don't know if he did.
Likes. I retweeted. I said a fascinating phenomenon nowadays is watching people clip things in context that I'm saying and then turn around and simply claim that I'm saying the opposite of what I'm saying in the clip. This is a 37 seconds long video and this dumbass lied about everything.
Yeah,
Why am I bringing this up?
Right. Because if we're gonna like try to summarize what Hassan Piker said there, he basically said, this is not a false flag, but if this was a false flag, this is how I would design it. That's what he said. He didn't support or deny, he didn't support what the terrorists did there. I don't think he denied, or I don't think he condemned what the terrorists did in that clip, but he certainly wasn't supporting it, at least there. So we gotta be fair, right? I know a lot of y'all like to hate on Hassan Piker. I completely understand, but we gotta be honest and we gotta be fair here.
Question. It's because the clip formulated by this account, which stated, Hassan Piker, star of Amazon's Twitch, says the attack sure looks like a perfect false flag. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The guy was genuine with his actions. How fucking absolutely gross is it that this is currently being streamed right now to 40,000 people?
And what's the name of this guy? The Dan dude. Dan Saltman. Dan Saltman is crazy. Even before Destiny got exposed for kind of being a creep, I was almost ready to stop watching him because of how crazy Dan Saltman was being, and how Destiny was okay with doing like the whole trying to start an adpocalypse on Twitch over anti-Semitism and like pro-terrorist propaganda on the platform, which, by the way, I understand being up in arms. And I think that Dan has done some excellent work in compiling clips with the whole Twitch or terrorists. I think that was fantastic. He's obviously a very talented programmer and web designer, but I think it's going a bit too far to then go to AT&T and be like, oh, your money is going to a platform that's got this one terrorist and a whole bunch of gamers, but this one terrorist. Because at that point, you're sort of holding the rest of the website hostage to get them to sort of bend to your will. I think he was even successful in getting some ad sponsors to pull from Twitch. So not a big fan of that strategy at all. I am not a pro ad apocalypse guy.
Then it turned into this. Hassan Piker, hailed by the New York Times, the future of progressivism, tells his audience that the DC attack might have been a false flag. And yet, here is Jake Tapper retweeting this. So I guess Jake Tapper, one of the most important members of the media, who just came out with a book talking about how the media narratives did not match up with what the people were seeing in terms of Joe Biden's senility, is still doing ridiculous things like this.
Well, I think it's not ridiculous because look, if I see a post that has text that says, oh, breaking, this person says this thing, isn't that bad? And it has a clip of that person, then I completely understand being okay, this is probably legit. I'm gonna boost this. Now, I think it's actually kind of funny because when it comes to me, when I look at posts like this, I do a lot more due diligence than that when it comes before just boosting things. I'll see a clip, I'll look up the context of the clips, and sometimes I'll look up the original clip to make sure that the person is saying what is actually being claimed that they said. I will do a bit of research before I actually boost something generally. At the very least, I'll watch the clip that I'm boosting, which it doesn't seem like Jake Tapper did at all. Now, maybe he's busy. He doesn't feel like fact-checking everything that he sees on the internet. That's completely understandable. But I do think, I think if a layman can fact-check the posts that they boost, I think that Jake Tapper certainly can as well.
Ridiculous things like this. It doesn't make any sense. But of course, all of that pressure inevitably led to Twitch taking this action. I had covered manifestos in the past on my broadcast. None of those manifestos actually met the same level of scrutiny. This one did. And I don't believe this one did exclusively because it was about Israel. I think this manifesto was simply used as an opportunity to try to get me banned by gay.
There it is. He's right. I'm glad that he's actually kind of pointing out, hey, this is an excuse. This is not the real reason I got banned. Okay, good. Because I thought he was gonna admit it, but then he didn't. And now I'm glad that he's actually turning around and admitting it now.
Gaming the terms of service. I did not think I was going to get suspended, but I'll take it. The real reason the ADL and numerous other organizations are actively trying to come after me, however, is because Israel is falling out of favor. Because many Americans and many people in the Western world are now finally seeing the truth that Israel is an apartheid state that is built around an ethno-supremacist ideology, and that Israel is doing a live-streamed genocide. Yesterday, they killed a doctor's family. 9 of this doctor's children burned, charred. Images such as this can be seen all over people's timelines and all.
This makes me upset because I hate war. I hate civilian casualties. at the same time, I completely understand that this is in large part due to Hamas refusing to protect their own civilians, and then actually doing the opposite, in fact, endangering their civilians, using equipment that the UN and the UNRWA, which I think are two entirely different organizations, gave them to build up the civilian infrastructure. Instead, used them to build terrorist tunnels that run underneath hospitals and run underneath schools. And I think one really bad side effect of Hamas's strategy, which is basically put a child in front of every bomb and a mom in front of every gun, the negative side effect is that sort of has excused almost everything that Israel has done, because Israel can now say, "Oh, we blew up that school because there was a terrorist in the basement or something," and it's entirely believable because of how Hamas has built up their infrastructure in society. If instead Hamas built up bunkers for the children to go underneath, bomb shelters, tried to create their own Iron Dome, tried to reinforce the civilian structures so that they'd be less susceptible to damage from rockets being fired by Israel, done more things just to protect the Palestinians who live in Gaza, then there would be less of a claim for Israel to basically indiscriminately bomb Gaza and then try to take the whole thing over, which is what it seems like they're doing now, because they don't have their excuse at that point. But Hamas has basically just given them the keys to conquering all of Gaza, which I think is actually something that some radicals in the government have wanted to do for quite a long time now.
Over social media, because now people have unprecedented access to the victims of a genocide unlike ever before. This is the reason why Israel has fallen out of
bro only Palestinians can start a war and then claim that they're being genocided and that they're victims when they're losing the war. I'm getting sick and tired of this narrative. I'm just low-key annoyed by the whole narrative that if you attack somebody, then you don't deserve any hate, but if you lose the war that you initiated, then everyone should be rooting against the victors. It's one thing to be I don't want to see people die, but it's another thing to be hey, in war, there is a winner and there is a loser. And honestly, the fact that the losers are victims at such scale is one reason why I don't like war and why I think war should be avoided at all costs, because the results of war can very often look like what we see in Gaza right now. And we've seen this in other places too. Even countries that were maybe on the wrong side of the war still had suffered pretty bad casualties, like Germans in World War II, Japan also. No matter which side of a war you're on, whether you're on the good side or you're on the bad side, it's always sad to see what happens to the civilians. Mr. Pizza says, it's Newsbeat. Yes, it is Newsbeat. It is Newsbeat. What did Hassan do this time? He got banned. The supposed reason was because he was reading a terrorist manifesto, but I think the real reason is because he's been getting exposed lately for supporting terrorism and extremism, and so I think Twitch used this as an example to ban Hassan for a rule that he breaks all the time, but he never gets banned for. So kind of a unique instance here. Also, by the way, Mr. Pizza, some weird stuff I think is going on with my internet. So if the stream looks like it's lagging, whatever, I will be uploading the full VOD that should be a lot smoother than the stream. So just in case you're wondering.
Favor and has become a pariah state on the global stage. This is the reason why now Western leadership, who have supplied Israel with arms in order to engage in such violent acts for the past 19 months, are finally turning around and stating that perhaps Israel should allow aid in, that perhaps Israel should stop doing war crimes. A former Likud far-right Israeli prime minister recently came out and said, enough is enough. Israel is doing war crimes. Israel has fallen so out of favor that
I agree, and I would consider myself like a Zionist to an extent, but I mean, he is right here from everything I understand.
Atlantic that a year ago wrote to rebut Hamas's allegations by letting journalists see the war up close would be a calculated risk. Even when conducted legally, war is ugly.
True.
It is possible to kill children legally if, for example, one is being attacked by an enemy who hides behind them. This was written on the Atlantic only a year ago. And now that very same Atlantic
it's true. It's true.
magazine is writing articles such as this one. It should not be controversial to plead for Gaza's children. Israel's limits on aid have put the region at critical risk of famine. Help is within reach, but it's not enough, and it's arriving too slowly.
Okay, but to be like, Israel should not be blockading, Israel should not be blockading Gaza is not the exact same as saying, Israel should not be attacking terrorists who are using children as human shields. So it's not like the Atlantic has like done a 180 in 1 year. I think that Hassan Piker is doing some deceptive framing here.
The reason why the tide is shifting is because the pressure valve is insurmountable.
Mr. Pizza says, I find that recording and streaming at the same time is what causes the stream to lag a lot. It depends on what your hardware is. I think this used to happen to me when I was streaming off of a laptop. I think with this computer, I'm starting to think that the computer's dying. Half the time when I try to start a stream on OBS, it freezes completely nowadays. But I do think that some of my siblings, knowing the time of night, I think there's probably someone in the house who's streaming. And I think because I'm relatively far away from the router, not super far away, but when people stream in this house, it does tend to mess with how my ability to stream. Like if they're like watching something on Netflix or whatever, it does sort of mess with my ability to stream. I'm not sure why that is the case. It shouldn't be the case. Now that I think about it, especially because we've got like Wi-Fi 6 and capable devices and routers. So, but yeah, I think that that's the real reason why everything is acting all strange.
Too many people know exactly what's going on. And as fascist ideology is a suicide cult, it seems like Israel is bringing the rest of the Western leadership down with it. Israel is no longer a democracy. You cannot be a democracy while you want to maintain an ethno-supremacist state that isn't.
I don't know if Israel's no longer a democracy. Did they get rid of their elections? No, I mean, maybe they have some free speech restrictions, which I wouldn't be shocked by. But I mean, they let people vote. I don't think they like suppress the votes or anything.
You cannot be a democracy while you want to maintain an ethno-supremacist state that is an apartheid state, and you certainly can't be a democracy while doing a genocide. But the Western world that seemingly was able to abide by and hope that the pressure goes away from the broader public are now being forced to listen to the demands being made by the public. So there is a interesting bargain here ahead of us. Will our politicians listen to our voices and try to maintain the presence of a democratic process, or will they go down with Israel? As I say here, every day that goes by, more and more people realize the truth. The very same institutions that spent countless hours defending and contextualizing Israel's genocide will now change their tune.
Well, if we're being honest, that's because Israel's behavior has changed. They were not as aggressive in the beginning as they are now. And I think that their behavior earlier on in the conflict was a lot more reasonable than it is right now. So, let's not kid ourselves and make it seem like everyone's just changing their minds because more and more kids are dying. Is because Israel's It's because Israel's strategy has changed.
Try and deplatform me all you like, but you can't change what people have seen. One day, everyone will behave as though they were always against this. I'm Hassan Piker. I hope you can keep supporting me.
Why is YouTube censoring the word Piker in the subtitles? I don't get it.
Watching me on YouTube, because even if I get deplatformed from Twitch completely, I will still find a way. And even if I am deplatformed entirely from every single website, the truth will still come out.
Oh my goodness.
On that note, see you on Monday.
Bro really thinks he's on like Democracy Now! Or something. What is this? Oh my goodness. I love the like-dislike ratio, how it's like not that great. Was it first they came for the himbos and I said nothing for I was a himbo. Second band. Oh, I guess this is useless because he's probably been deleting. Oh, this is funny. Unban Hassan. You cannot. It's impossible to translate this to English. But if you're not watching the stream, just go to the comment by Mr. Coffee Mr. Coffee576. It's kind of a funny comment there. I want to look up real quick and see if a Hasanabi VOD channel uploaded the VOD from the day that he got banned. No, he didn't react to the manifesto, so at least not in that stream it looks like. But anyways, yeah, it's nice to see Hassan be at least a little bit honest about the reason why he got banned. But I sort of hate how he's like sort of pitched this to make himself seem like some sort of like grand martyr for censorship, when honestly he should have been banned like a long time ago. Like I think it's too much. It's too much, and I really hate that Twitch is going to use this as a excuse to not do anything to Hassan Piker at all in the future.